What is up guys, Greedy Knight here talking about the first set of patch notes for Sunbreak. I'll go over the most notable changes and link the notes in the description down below for your own review. There's a lot to comb through, so let's get into it. Greatsword had its damage buffed, with a few notable animation changes. Hunting Edge received an overhaul, now costing 1 wire bug instead of 2, recharging quicker, and the ability to combo into moves like a strong charge slash. These minimal buffs are more than enough when taking into account the Sunbreak moves like strong arm stance. Longsword Spirit Gauge multiplier is nerfed. Soaring Kick's cooldown time was increased. That's all it took to knock Longsword back to the mortal realm of Blade Master. The 5x multiplier of Red Spirit Gauge led to the cracked Soaring Kick damage. Gauge getting gutted will result in lower damage overall. Paired with Soaring Kick's reduced frequency via a longer cooldown, Longsword is not going to do the same damage output in Sunbreak using the same bag of tricks as in Rise. That would explain why the new moves are notably better than the other weapons. It's Capcom's way of saying you have to use the new moves to output Rise levels of damage. The motion values of Sword and Shield was increased for pretty much every move, mostly for raw attacks, with multi-hits receiving a direct buff. Windmill received an additional sharpness reduction buff, so that it doesn't just gobble up your sharpness meter. It should have had its wire bug cost reduced, because Metsushoryu Geki is still the better Silkbind attack. The hit detection of Perfect Rush was improved, giving you more consistent 4-hit rushes. Dual Blades received the raw damage increase, with multi-hitting attacks having both element and status scaled up. Archdemon mode has its element values increased, with its toggling animation being sped up. You also gain new combos when dipping out of your demon mode. These buffs translate to you applying better damage in Archdemon mode than in actual demon mode. It likely aims to invalidate the Para-Cat dual blades and encourage alternate builds. It's interesting that they tried to nerf a strategy by buffing the competition. Lance was buffed to the moon. Every single move got a raw damage buff, with a majority of them gaining element or status values buffed. Insta-block changed into Silkbind attacks, and the follow-up input had its window increased, allowing you to be more patient when countering a monster in between its multi-hitting combos. Twin Vine got an overhaul. It now costs 1 wire bug, gives a guarding power increase with stamina reduction, and you home in on the kunai's location when performing your Leroy Jenkins charge. This lets you snipe tethered body parts like the head. The cherry on top is the rework of Anchorage. It scales with damage received, and its buff lasts longer. It is apparent that Lance went from being the abandoned child to the favorite child. Lance mains rejoice for this iteration. Praise the sun. Break. Gunlance got the standard damage buffs, with an increase to shelling 4 and 5. Hail Cutter recharges faster and causes Wyvern Fire to do the same. The rest of the changes were just bug fixes for the weapon. Compared to Lance, our favorite Boomstick received less buffs and arguably needed them more than its non-boomy cousin. When considering the new moves, maybe this is just what the weapon needs. The raw damage of all hammer moves got buffed, while Courage received the majority of the element, status, and exhaust buffs. This is a blatant buff to element and status hammer, since Courage is a multi-hitting playstyle and its already short charge time was reduced further through this patch. With Impact Burst, element and status become meta viable. Water Strike gained a new combo path into the move and had its follow-up window increased. Impact Crater got many bug fixes but not any real buffs. It should work more consistently in line with Capcom's vision of the move, rather than taking game balance into account. Aside from the general damage increase, a number of Hunting Horn moves had their infernal melody buildup increased. It also had its combos changed, presumably for the better. Any Horn mains, let me know what it did for the weapon in the comments. The Blight Song was buffed to give 10 plus resistance to all resistances, while the Resident's bead size was increased. Switch Axe is the only weapon to have its attack range and part damage altered for some moves. The animation changes were made to the Wild Swing, increasing damage to each consecutive swing, and it made the finisher easier to access. Compressed Discharge had the recoil changed, but it is most likely decreased to give a speedier finish than the default. Full Power Charge Blade is back. Super Spam got a number of notable buffs. The foul hitboxes got taller, leading to more consistent 5 foul supers. It's less punishing to position perfectly, only for the fouls to miss or just snipe a monster's ankles. They can hit larger and taller monsters with higher consistency than in base Rise, making foul height an issue only against absurdly tall monsters. In addition, supers had their foul damage increased. You are now actually rewarded for popping a super, since all 5 fouls have a better chance to land through the taller hitbox and each one will do the damage similar to Iceborne or maybe even for you. Spinning Axe receives less mechanical buffs since Purple Sharpness and a plethora of crit related skills are entering the meta. They removed the charge failure animation, letting you enter your condensed modes, regardless of energy, faster. You don't really care about energy charge or files when it comes to Spinning Axe, so saving that second is welcomed for increased DPS. Sword Boost mode was changed from 30 seconds to 60 seconds, letting you just slash away instead of constantly spamming element slash to maintain your mode. Forward roll had input lag decreased so you can combo out of a roll faster. Shield thrust was sped up when comboing into charge slashes. You gained some new yet unspecified guard point and guarding actions. Lastly, they made the AED easier to hit. All of these buffs were meant to bolster firing pin since that is the new feature move. Overall, Chargeblade got every single complaint I had about the weapon addressed and then some. It's a good time to be a Chargeblade main. Insect Glaive got the same buffs as the others in terms of damage, but notably lacks any element increases like Dual Blades or Sword and Shield. Being the third multi-hit weapon of the Blade Master roster, it would have made sense to include the element buff. You gain invincibility while your bug is out, granted you have yellow extract. There's red, white, orange, and green extract, but what is yellow? I'll research it and give the explanation in the Glaive guide, but I believe it should be the stamina extract. Powder Kinsects have less recoil when they are hit and attack more frequently. Tetrasil Slash was sped up, giving you a faster finisher. Recall Kinsect now reduces Kinsect stamina depletion, increases health recovered, and you can combo into it after landing. The flight angle of your Kinsect was raised, presumably to make aiming your Kinsect easier. Most ammo types got buffed while sticky ammo got nerfed on every value. This discourages the stunlock bowgun sets where the monster never gets up and you just pew pew away at the monster. Capcom actually wants you to struggle with a hunt, not deal with the helpless monster flailing on the ground because it forgot its life alert. Like or hate the change, sticky bowgun was a cracked strategy and the nerf was warranted. Meanwhile, bow got charge level 1 and 2 buffed while charge level 3 and 4 got nerfed. Also, its damage and coding values were buffed. I don't know how this affects the weapon, but it got a slap on the wrist compared to the quote-unquote broken Rise weapons. Feel free to correct me in the comments as I am not a gunner. Overall, this balance patch was solid. It nerfed the blatantly broken weapons and bolstered the weaker ones, creating a better quote-unquote metagame environment. In my opinion, the balancing of weapons is vital to keeping interest in Monster Hunter. If everything is viable, then you will be encouraged to try everything, sinking more time into the game than just sticking to the meta DPS builds using specific weapons. There is no point in having 14 weapons if 10 of them are objectively worse than the top 4. Capcom needs to and has buffed what needs to be buffed, and nerfed what needs to be nerfed, regardless if it meant treating Monster Hunter like a fighting game. At the end of a hunt, you can balance Monster Hunter like it is a fighting game, but there are other aspects like skills and builds to account for when balancing the game further. Longsword isn't invalidated, just less powerful than in Rise, and Gunner will transition to non-sticky strategies. Like if this video was useful to you, consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this. That's all I got for this one. Greedy Knight, signing out.